All right, welcome back to the Educated Idiots podcast. This is a special edition of the podcast. I'm your host, Doug Wilkinson. I'm running a solo mission today. My partner in crime, Dan Hensing, the obvious real talent of our show, is on a much-needed vacation. I'm going forward with an all-sports edition of the podcast today, and this isn't just for the in-depth, real into-it sports. This is for the casual sports fan, too. I know we've got a lot of diverse listeners out there. I'm also going to hit some audience feedback as well. We've got some sports-related ones that are in there, and want to encourage you to hit us up with your thoughts in the sports world whenever and however you choose to get a hold of us. But hey, here we go. Let's dive in. So, both Dan and I have a huge passion for sports. Dan was a college basketball player. I was a college football player. We both coached. Dan coached golf and basketball, and for me, I've done football and basketball. But being sarcastic smart Alex is kind of the beloved passion that kind of takes us away from sports and takes the center stage when we actually sit down and do our podcasts. So I want to get into just a few topics today that are extremely relevant as we're going forward here in the near future. Topic number one has got to be, and I know there's been a million different people, I hope you don't click off or stop listening at this point, but it's LeBron James going back to Cleveland. Now, I want to not even confront that right away. I want to talk about just the NBA in general, and this is for the novice sports fan or even complete total non-sports fan and people who are like knee-deep into the sports industry. For me, there's two distinct camps when it comes to the general public and its relationship with the NBA. It's people that either have not watched it or never have gotten into it, or people who are basketball fans, but they quit watching as soon as Michael Jordan retired for the final time, or even his last Bulls retirement, not even for the Washington Wizards years. And it's the other camp is those that kept watching, or they started watching within the last 4 years when LeBron James went to the Miami Heat, or he's a lightning rod. People found a reason to like him, dislike him, or the NBA for whichever game they watched, whether they watched a game or not. So let's talk about that first camp, which would also include my partner in crime, Dan. And I know this is just audio today, no video on this one, but I am pouring out a little bit for my homie Dan. But I know he's having fun on his vacation right now. So people who are in that first camp, I've got a simple message for you. Start watching games again. And I'm not saying start watching like the Milwaukee Bucks and the Philadelphia 76ers on a meaningless night during the middle of the NFL season. I'm also not saying watching every single game. I mean, even the regular season for the most. I'm going to give you some guidance here. There's a lull at the end of the NFL season and the start of March Madness. During that lull, try to catch the San Antonio Spurs playing the Oklahoma City Thunder, or the Chicago Bulls taking on the Golden State Warriors, something like that. There are tons of young, talented players. They actually play defense. They don't travel every time that they touch the ball, and they can make a move, and then they actually give a crap night in and night out. Like, they care about the game itself. Now, that's not a blanket statement. I mean, there's exceptions to every rule. But in general, those are some of the biggest knocks against the NBA, especially in the post-Jordan years. So take step one. Watch a game during that mid-February to mid-March lull. Catch good teams playing, and you'll notice that it's not what you thought it was. It's what college basketball actually could be if those same guys would stick around in college for more than a year. Instead, they go for a year and then they're all grouped together on some really good NBA rosters. After that little appetizer in the dead of winter, at least the dead of winter here in Iowa, tune back into the NBA, and this would be the next step. Sometime around late April and May. Don't waste your time again with those same teams that I were mentioning that aren't playing for anything. And to be honest, if you're not sure how to tell who should be playing for something and who's not, you don't know how to work the internet or anything like that, just get a hold of us somehow. I'll let you know which teams at that point are worth checking out and which ones aren't. But don't waste your time watching the Eastern Conference as well come playoff time, in the opening round at least. The Western Conference is loaded. This past season, they had some of the best games in the opening round. And if you're familiar with the NBA, you already know that. This past year in the Western Conference of the NBA, there were 3 teams who didn't make the top 8 for the playoffs in the Western Conference who would have been like a top 4 seed in the eastern half of the conference. So there's tons of really good players in the western half of the United States on those rosters. So that's my advice for the NBA in general. To recap is step one, watch some good teams play. Find a lull. I mean, even if basketball, especially if basketball is not your number one sport, obviously if it is, you're already watching, you already know everything that I'm telling you is true. But if you're not, if you're a football first type of person or golf or soccer or whatever have you, there is a great chance to watch in that February after the Super Bowl and right before March Madness starts, where you can get in, you can watch some of that. But find the good teams, watch them. And that was the thing that made Dan a believer. And I know the next time that he and I get together and we'll talk, about that topic for sure. He'll agree. I found him, calling or texting, or he was over at my house and we were watching playoff games, and he started noticing that, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing for he actually started watching it. And he found out that I wasn't full of it. Like I actually was giving him the truth, that the game is a lot better. Now, the really hard sell is going to be those other people who either aren't basketball fans or are, I only like college basketball and, stuff like that. But definitely if you get a chance, check that out. Now, beyond that, let's talk LeBron. He is, as I kind of said before, he's a lightning rod figure. Most sports people have an opinion on the guy, whether or not, you're in the first category that I had just talked about a little bit ago. They have this feeling about LeBron. If you're that first category, you stop watching after Michael Jordan left. Everybody feels like, well, I'm going to compare him to Michael Jordan. And let's just stop that. Can we please just stop that? There's not going to be another Michael Jordan. And there's a reason for that. What Jordan did was so impressive. It's not fair to try and put anybody to that type of goals. And if you're going to compare anyone, you might as well compare Kobe Bryant. I mean, he has been on record as trying to emulate Jordan, and he's probably done the best job emulating Jordan to that extent. I think about it this way, especially as a teacher, and I've taught a lot of different siblings over the years. I'm one of 5 kids in my family. I know Dan has siblings as well. If you have a sibling that either did amazing at everything or the total opposite, and they screwed up everything in their life, or somewhere in between, those siblings that follow kind of get compared to that older sibling. And it's not fair. It's not fair to that younger sibling that they're not their older brother or sister, and you know what? They never will be. So stop trying to compare them. They are different people. My older sisters, oh my God, did they set the academic bar high. I think my oldest sister got 35 or a 36 on the ACT, and one of my other sisters was pretty much right in that stratosphere. And to be honest, my other older sister, right there. And then you know what happened? Boom, me and my brother came along. My brother just said we both realized that academics may or may not have been our strongest suit. My brother went the way of craftsmanship, woodworking, and that kind of stuff, and he is awesome at it. I went the route of playing sports. Down the line, both my brother and I realized my brother's finishing up a master's degree. I've been working on my master's degree. I had a bunch of 4.0s in college, and they weren't handing those away. Made the dean's list my last 3 years there. I was smart. I had to thank my wife for figuring that part out. But I guess the overall point I'm trying to make is you cannot compare LeBron James to Michael Jordan in the same way that you cannot compare siblings to each other. They're going to have strengths. They're going to have weaknesses. They're going to have some similarities. So in the same breath was that when LeBron James is done, or even if you want to try doing it now, you cannot compare anyone else after him or, truthfully, before him to LeBron James. Here's his physical makeup. He's built like an NFL defensive end. He runs like a wide receiver. And he has the athleticism of a basketball guard and the court vision of Magic Johnson and the brains of Peyton Manning. So there's my mixed sports people there, but it is crazy what it is. Why can't we just let him simply be LeBron James? So here was his decision. He recently, if you haven't been paying attention, you've been living under a rock, or you've been on vacation, he recently decided to go back to Cleveland and their team, the Cavaliers. And I actually, ironically, found this out from Dan when we had gone on a vacation this weekend, and when the decision was made, we happened to be in the car. I got a text from Dan Hensing saying that, hey, welcome back Cleveland, or something. So there's a guy who, before we started all of this, proof's in the pudding, before we started all of this, he then now, a couple of months later, is the one telling me about NBA news as I'm missing it because we couldn't get a sports station tuned in and we were listening to just the radio at that point. So, all right. So in what he's doing, if you know the background of this, he left in a horrible way 4 years ago from Cleveland. And this was, he has there's an essay he wrote on SportsIllustrated.com, and they put it up there. And if you haven't read it, man, I don't even care if you're a sports fan or not, you should read it. It is truly impressive, especially when you understand everything that was going on there. The NBA season doesn't even begin for 3 months, and I cannot wait to see how everything plays out. It's going to be really fun to watch, and if you follow any of the steps that I provided before, it's going to be a great chance to see exactly kind of how things have changed in the past decade, and get to a TV, try my sample test, and you're going to see some of these things. But it was really impressive that LeBron James was able to deal with some mistakes that he made when he was a 25-year-old. I don't want to say kid, he was an adult, but didn't surround himself with the best people, didn't leave there under the best circumstances, made a TV special out of it, which, oh, by the way, made a couple $1 million for the Boys and Girls Club. I don't think that absolves the way that he kind of took Cleveland's heart out and kind of set it ablaze for the entire state and the entire city to watch happen. And if you don't know why it matters to Cleveland, then you really probably aren't a sports fan. That's okay. If you're listening to us and you're not a sports fan, again, GTS, and figure out exactly what's going on in the Cleveland universe, and you'll realize why sports probably matter even more to them, because they have not won a title of any type in like 50 years. So they're really happy now. It's funny that I think the best metaphor I heard for all of this was the way that the Cavs owner, Dan Gilbert, the owner of the NBA team there, he wrote a real nasty letter. He left it up on their website the past 4 years. He just took it down a couple of weeks ago when they realized that LeBron might be coming home. But the metaphor I liked that I heard, I'd love to give credit for it. I think it was actually Charles Barkley, of all people, who said it. Love the Chuckster. But Charles had said, it's like you dated the girlfriend. She broke up with you. You got really mad right in the moment, and then down the road you guys reconciled your differences, and now you're back together again. I don't know if that's the best metaphor for it. I also heard another one. It was like you start, as a man, you start dating a woman who maybe has a kid, and eventually she says, oh, the father of my child and I are able to get things patched back up together, and I'm going to try working things out with him. Again, maybe not the best metaphor, and I don't know if that helps Miami and the people there, but I think they've got beaches. I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be, everything will settle on that sense. So try my sample test. February, March, if this sticks in your head at all. If not, maybe I'll throw a little reminder out there to try catching more of that action, or the Christmas time of year is when I think really the NBA, the best matchups start making it on TV. But that's topic number one. Topic number two, golf. All right, so the British Open is coming up. Tiger Woods is back, and you talk about lightning rod figures. Here is another one. And this is one that has transcended. You talk about one person having a huge impact on sports. Tiger Woods probably has the biggest impact on his sport over anyone. And I welcome you to challenge that. And I guess the only thing, the best thing I'll use as my evidence, not the only thing, but the best thing I'll use is TV ratings. Look at the TV ratings when Tiger Woods is playing golf. Look at the ratings even when he's not playing well. People will still watch. But when he is in the hunt and at the top of the leaderboard or near the top of the leaderboard, the ratings triple or quadruple with the amount of people that want to watch golf. And as he's been gone, he missed the first two majors of this year. There haven't been people watching. Now, there's a lot of talented golfers in the world. And that's, I think, what's the most amazing part of this. If you've never tried the game, and I'm talking about try playing it competitively. I'm not talking about playing putt-putt golf or driving the golf cart and trying to whack a ball around while you polish off a 12-pack. I'm saying if you've tried the game, you understand how amazingly difficult golf is to play. So as he was down, as the ratings were down, few people watched because, unless Tiger's, and if it's not golf season, they'll watch if he's driving into fire hydrants as well. I mean, people's eyes go to the screen when that guy's name is on there. I just hope this. I hope that Tiger can find a way to play some solid golf, that he can stick around for the weekend at the British Open coming up, and he can give more and more people a reason to watch the game. That you can literally play golf like your entire life. And I suppose that's why, and Dan coaches golf, and that's why I can't wait to get his thoughts on all of this stuff too. because lots of sports have shelf lives. I don't get my buddies together to strap on some of the pads and play pickup football anymore. I doubt that there are too many wrestlers out there who throw on a singlet and get some old buddies together on the weekend just to, kind of wrestle around on a mat. And hey, maybe you do. And what you do on your own time, I think it's a bit creepy, but if that's what you want to do on your own time, hey, that's your business. But, pickup basketball even has a shelf life. Yeah, you can shoot baskets, and that can stick around for quite a while. But there was an old football coach, and I met him through several other coaches. My high school coach had him as a coach once upon a time. He's was at Cornell University for many, many years. The last time that I saw him has probably been 5 or 6 years ago when my high school coach, Ed Hansen, who's now retired, lives in Arizona, still gets to play golf, which is great for him. Someone who's, I think he's in his probably 60s, still getting to play golf and playing golf well. His coach that I got the opportunity to spend time with, he was still, the last time I played golf with him, he was 93 years old. And he was still teeing it up, and he couldn't hit the ball more than maybe 100, 150 yards. But you talk about literally, like at 95, I will probably, have been in the dirt for a couple of decades at that point. If I'm lucky, I'm probably on borrowed time as it is. But you can play this thing for life. Now, you may not always be able to play it well, but you can play it well. And here's the thing that I think for people with golf, like basketball, like pickup basketball. I'm in my early 30s. I can't even play pickup basketball anymore without being able to walk for the next couple of days. And that's when I knew it was probably time to hang it up. And when I'm just a couple of months removed from a major back injury and back surgery, and I was told I had the spine of somebody in their 60s or 70s at the ripe old age of 31. But, and I can't play golf at all right now. My hope is, that next year I'll be able to play. And here's the thing that I'm just itching for golf. It is that sport that you can play because one day you can't master it. Even the best in the world, like one day they could go out and shoot an amazing round, the round of their life. The very next day they tee it up, and it could be the worst round of their life. It is amazingly frustrating, yet amazingly addictive in terms of the people that want to play. Now, is it an expensive sport? Sure, it can be. And unfortunately, I do think that limits. That's the other benefit of Tiger Woods is what he's been able to do for people, in other communities and trying to get into urban areas and get people going on golf and get them a chance to play and not make it so expensive and not make it so elitist, so that people can play. If you want your elite, locations and stuff, yeah, hey, use your wallet. That's cool. That's fine, whatever. But, here's the thing for anybody who's ever played golf. You could have a awesome round going, and you could have one shot that changes everything. The flip side, you could be playing a terrible round, and maybe it's your last iron shot into a green, or you drain a 20-foot putt on your last hole, and you go, you know what? Maybe I will try and get back out here tomorrow or the next day or whenever. And so I hope Tiger plays well, and I hope he can get back in and get eyes back on the sport. And for those of you that are listening or tried tuning out when I started mentioning Tiger, look, I don't go to him as my moral compass. So it's not that I condone like what he does or what he did, but that doesn't prevent me from still being able to enjoy watching the guy play and what he's able to do. He's already one of the best of all time, and he is trying to be the best of all time. Now, whether he gets there or not, I guess we'll find out as things go on. But he is polarizing. That's what people like. That's interesting. I love interesting things. Those stories are things that we like talking about on here, and I thought that was a really good one. All right, so we got this audience feedback question from Neil in Cedar Falls, and the question was, what's one of your favorite coaching moments? And I wish there was one. And people, obviously, at the high school level and junior high level, like where Dan and I coach, we don't do this for the paycheck. That is not going to do. You do it because you enjoy the kids, you enjoy working with them. So my two favorite ones, and I'm cheating, I'm using two, but my two favorite ones are quick ones, but they are ones that have nothing to do with winning or losing. My first one comes from football. I picked one from football, one from basketball. So my one from football is this. One of my favorite things is a tradition that got started long before I arrived at Cedar Falls, and I kept it going during my years as a sophomore coach and as a sophomore head coach. And our last practice of the year was always right around Halloween, usually the week before Halloween. And so some coach before me, could have been the one right before me, and Chestnut, you can let me know if that was you or if it was someone before you even, but they started this idea they started this idea of the Halloween practice. And so the Halloween practice was you just tell the kids the night before, come to practice tomorrow in a costume, and then, that's how we'll practice. And that's usually all you tell them. And then they get creative. And I love it at the sophomore level. It's not like we wasted the whole time. We still had stuff we had to get done. Some of the humor was in watching them try to do it in some type of unique outfits. And I won't go into the depth and detail, but those of you out there that are former players, or parents of players, obviously the tradition I'm talking about. But that's the beauty of football, especially at that age, is you can have some fun. You can still be serious, and you got to pick and choose the right moments and hope that you're doing it right. But that was one that I always loved because it let them know that you are still teenagers and it's not quite the varsity yet, so you can still try to have some fun with it. And it doesn't mean you waste it. It doesn't mean you don't get anything done, but you get to still be a kid again. And one of my other ones was my freshman basketball group that when they were ninth graders. It was my first coaching gig right out of college. I was the head ninth grade basketball coach, and we had a day of practice. A kid didn't show up in his practice jersey. I asked him why, and he said that his mom hadn't washed it. And I just couldn't believe that. How do you not know how to do laundry? I know he's 14, 15 years old or whatever, but so I sat the group down using the chalkboard, and I actually diagrammed on the chalkboard how to do laundry. And the really cool part about this is that I've got guys that, these guys now are in their mid-20s, since they were my first group, and they still remember that. They don't remember much else. They don't remember our record that year. I mean, even though we had a pretty good team, but most of them remember that. Sitting in the locker room and Coach Wilkinson telling them how to separate laundry and make sure they do it right, and we had a blast. So thank you, Neil from Cedar Falls, for the question. Appreciate that. I'll get Dan's take on that when we get him back from vacation, I'm sure, with a beautiful tan and probably plenty of great golf stories to share with us. So thanks, everybody, for listening. I'm sorry I had to do a solo act today. Dan's going to be back in the saddle again for our next episode. Feel free to hit us up with sports-related questions, comments, stories of your own. Keep an eye out on social media for some giveaways and things that we're going to be doing to help reward those that are listening in. If you're not following us on social media yet, please do, or spread the word yourself, if you like what you're hearing. So I'm Doug Wilkinson for the Educated Idiots podcast. We'll see you again for episode 10 when the big man returns from his vacation, ready to go with more back and forth banter and fun. But thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you the next time.